Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's I'm going to be reviewing a lifted Toyota 4Runner. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Carl Malone Toyota here in Draper for giving me some time with this 4Runner. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get right into it. So powering this lifted 4Runner is the standard turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It puts out 278 horsepower and then 317 pound-feet of torque. Now before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you're going to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. This particular build is built off of a TRD Sport. So you've got the really cool hood scoop there, front and center. And then I love the headlight design on the new 4Runner. I think it looks really sharp. You've got the rectangular fog lights down below. Now, of course, they've removed the air dam, which is very easy to remove on the new 4Runner. I've got the recovery points right there, front and center. Even on a TRD Sport, it comes with recovery points. But it gives the front end a much more aggressive appearance. And this is actually the first time I've seen a new 4Runner without the air dam. And let me tell you, it looks a lot better. Now we've got 35s wrapped around 17-inch wheels, Icon wheels with this. Now these are wider 35s. If you put pizza cutter 35s on this, then you could have basically a flush offset with the tires to the fender flares there. I'll show you guys a side view in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. Anyways, this has a 3-inch suspension lift with this. And then with the TRD Sport, you actually get the body painted fender flares from the factory. Everything else is already body painted or blacked out, including the badging, which looks really cool. But give you guys the side profile here. Really nice stance. And I will say that this is just my personal opinion. The new 4Runner looks really good lifted, whereas the new Land Cruiser not as much. And I own a Land Cruiser, and I'm saying that. I think that the 4Runner, just with the body style and everything, it works out better. So here's that offset that I was telling you guys about. It's actually not that bad. Like, it just barely pokes out past the fender flares. But if you wanted it to be more flush, again, you could go for pizza cutters, and that would kind of make it sit in flush with those fender flares. And then here is the rear of the new 4Runner with that lift and everything. Man, this is a good looking rig. This actually, seeing this build actually makes me like the new 4Runner a lot more than I initially did. If I knew how good the 4Runner looked lifted, maybe I wouldn't have gotten a Land Cruiser, man. And then just quickly showing you guys the interior. This is kind of like an entry-level TRD Sport. So you actually do get soft touch here on the door panel on the front and here in the back as well, which is nice. But anyways, you've got these cloth seats here. They've got nice trim. They are manually adjustable. You actually get fancier pedals in the TRD Sport, which is pretty cool. They got nice trim around the steering wheel, but yeah, it's still digital cage cluster. It's going to come with a smaller infotainment system. You can see the transmission shifter there. It is still going to come with a 2-speed transfer case, so you could do some off-roading with this. It just doesn't have the rear locking differential and the fancy computers that you're going to have in the TRD off-road. But yeah, kind of a more basic interior, but it's kind of what you get with the Sport. Now this leads us to the pricing with the accessories. You can see the MSRP there, and then the accessories is, well, roughly 10 grand. But you can see again, 3-inch lift, you've got the wheels, you've got the tires, and then you also have window tint added. $62,539 is the total pricing on this with everything taken into account. And let's see how it performs. It's a little bit of a jump up to get into it. Just make sure you stay in good shape so you can get into your lifted 4Runner. Let's put the seat back a little bit. I'm really excited to see how this performs. Let's see if there's any rubbing. So that's driving forward. Let's do full crank, reverse. Yeah, no rubbing, which I expected there to not be rubbing. Toyota has made it possible to have so much more clearance with their new cars. Tire clearance, that is. I mean, on a stock 4Runner, you can easily fit 33s, and you can even fit 34s. He's got to have the right wheel offset and everything. Some people have said you can even do 35s. That would, I don't know. I'd have to see it to believe it. You know, 35s without any sort of rubbing. But yeah, let's see how this thing performs, because it looks great. It looks absolutely fantastic. So, see if it drives as good as it looks. So I will say, this engine moving 35s, again, you gotta remember this is the non-hybrid. You don't get the same low end. I mean, the torque difference is enormous. Sorry, I got my seat. There we go. The hybrid's 465 for the torque, and all that's, you know, not all of it, but most of it's going to come on just like that. Whereas this 317, yeah, it's a big difference. So I will say there is, I can already perceive an acceleration difference if you have the non-hybrid having to move big tires like this. But it's still better than a 5th gen 4, which is not hard to beat, because I mean, as good as that 4.0 V6 sounds and as reliable as it is, it's the gutless wonder. But I still love that powertrain. It's still a great powertrain overall. Man, this is actually pretty nice. This drives a lot more truck-like than the Land Cruiser in certain ways, which I actually like. Feels like a more rugged vehicle. I think part of that's the steering wheel, right? The trim on the steering wheel. But yeah, it's having no problem whatsoever. And you know, the nice thing about this is, even though it's got these huge tires, it still seems to handle pretty well. I'm not really having any issues there. Steering's, it's got a little bit of vagueness with the bigger tires compared to stock, but it's not bad. It's very manageable. But also remember, I drive an Ineos Grenadier that has the most dead steering on the planet, so like, this feels great to me. This feels direct, sharp, sports car-like. Yeah, I'm going over the bumps and everything too. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, I want to get like a big acceleration here. See how this... You know, it's not that bad. It really is not that bad. It feels like it's about as quick as a stock TRD Pro with the 5th gen. So, yeah, I don't want to know what the fuel economy is going to be though. Probably not great. Judging by my fuel economy with my 250 Land Cruiser, yeah, it's not going to be that great. But, you know, the price you pay for big tires. So in conclusion, I like this lifted 4Runner. It, again, the 4Runner, like, I kind of am understanding what Toyota is doing, right? The Land Cruiser is kind of like the luxury. It's still a very capable off-road vehicle, but it's kind of like the luxury off-roader. This is the truck, right? And it makes sense. Like, it's a Tacoma SUV. That's what it looks like. And so having the truck have this big lift that, you know, is not going to handle quite as well and is not going to be quite as refined on road, it's kind of what you expect out of a 4Runner. So I think it actually works out really well in the 4Runner's favor. And again, there's not really much to concede other than getting in and out. It's a little bit more difficult because it's higher up. It's to be expected. And, you know, you're gonna have a little bit more body roll. It's gonna get worse fuel economy. Boy, oh boy. You just gotta dig into it a little bit. I mean, if you could get your hands on an iForce Max with a 4Runner, that would be the way to go if you're gonna do a big lift like this. But if you can't, this is still fine. Especially if you're coming from a 5th gen. Especially if you're coming from a 5th gen, this is already going to feel quite a bit quicker. And then, you know, with these 35s, it's not really going to feel that much. It's not going to feel slower at all compared to your 5th gen. It's going to feel pretty similar. So, and again, the benefit of the non-hybrid is you don't have the battery robbing space in the cargo area. So you do have that going for you. Man, I love this thing. And this, I mean, that's saying a lot, because I'm usually not a fan of big lifts like this. I usually think that they're like, because it's not practical. You know, it's expensive and it's not practical. But this just drives well, and it looks, the biggest thing is it just looks cool. So props to Toyota for making this possible with their new, they just made this new platform so much easier to modify, so much easier to put big tires under. So it definitely allows for stuff like this much more than before. Speaking of, look at that, there's TRD Pro. We tower over that thing. Look at that. Pipsqueak. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this thing.